The Spotify Carthing. An honestly really interesting and cool device. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably know what's happening with the car thing and what has happened already up to this point. The car thing was put out years ago, and within 5 months, it was considered dead by the manufacturers. Now, this is not completely unusual in the tech industry. Hardware products flop all of the time. As somebody who has worked on software and hardware throughout the years, I can tell you that while I enjoy working on hardware, I know that I could never make a living building cool microelectronics in the same way that I can make a living writing software. That's just what the market is because it's so much easier to acquire software and to distribute software than it is to figure out manufacturing for physical hardware, especially considering how far modern computing is and the fact that pretty much everyone has access to some kind of a computer these days. So, the Spotify car thing, while novel and interesting, and uh, quite honestly, it has a clicky wheel. I like the clicky wheel. It sold a number of units for sure, including one to myself. I really liked this idea, and I personally have a 2010 Chevy Colorado that is it's about as bare bones as they come. It is like a newer version of the first truck that I ever had. My first vehicle was a 2001 Chevy Colorado, and 9 years later, it still has manual rolling windows. I don't even know if kids know what that means anymore. It does not even have a cassette player. It's just the most bare bones radio. And so I use a little thing that you plug into the cigarette lighter that sends out a small FM signal to my radio, and it gets that information via Bluetooth from my phone. Now that's great and all, but I mean I can't be looking at my phone while I'm driving. So the idea of having this display that brought some kind of a modern interface for my music while driving was very appealing to me. Now personally, I got this thing and it was kind of useless to me. I also just kind of live in the middle of nowhere and I don't really have phone signal all the time, and it just doesn't work without phone signal, which is just dumb, in my opinion. As a device that communicates with my phone over Bluetooth and with my radio over radio frequencies, well, I'm already doing that otherwise, so it's literally just communicating with my phone over Bluetooth. My phone can play Spotify just fine without the internet. It has an offline mode. I download songs ahead of time for that exact purpose. But this device does not work when we're in offline mode, which is just frustrating. So I just never ended up using it that much, and it ended up collecting dust. At a certain point, I even popped it open and I looked at the internals just to see what was going on in there, and it's pretty basic. I've certainly worked with like computers that are smaller and more basic than that, but it's about as basic as you can come for what it's giving. Um, it is, in fact, technically a Linux computer. It's more like an Android Linux version. All Android phones, Android is just Linux. It's just a mobile Linux. Like, let's be real here. You even have a terminal if you really want to. You can set all that up. That's a whole side tangent. This little thing is running a version of Android Linux, more or less. It's, yeah. And then there's a web server that's happening on top of it. The entirety of Spotify is loaded in via web server, which honestly makes a lot of sense. I'm pretty sure the Spotify client is in fact just built using a technology called Electron. At least at some point it was. I don't know if it still is, which is just using web technology to make desktop apps. Like Spotify loves its web dev stuff. Yeah, I can appreciate that. It's cheap, it's easy to distribute. And in the terms of this device, it doesn't really need to be that powerful. You're just loading a little web page. It's totally fine. Um, Now, why that becomes important is that very soon, as of I think December 6th, Spotify is bricking every single one of these devices. They've determined it's such a failure that they're just bricking it for everyone. And while it wasn't necessarily the perfect solution that a lot of people hoped it would be, it's still something that people want to use and enjoy. And I think it's messed up. Quite personally, I think it's absolutely messed up in every sense of the word that you're just gonna brick your consumers' devices because you don't want to be responsible for maintaining it anymore. Like hell, at least like companies like Apple just let your device die. They'd rather it just slowly die over time than shut off access for everyone and piss off their customer base. So I, as a person who one has a Spotify card thing, two knows how to work with bare bones electronics like this and program for bare bones electronic like this, I should just do something for it, right? And the first and foremost thing that I wanted to do was make a quick tutorial on what to do to make it so that your Spotify car thing doesn't get bricked. Because I don't know what exactly they're doing when they're saying that they're bricking devices, but I don't like the sound of it. And everybody should have access to this. This is not something that I say you can go into super, super lightly. If you are not a technically inclined person, if you don't spend a lot of time at your computer, find somebody that you know who does and buy them lunch. Ask them to do this, truly. Um, and if all else fails, like just reach out on the interwebs. I don't know, find somebody. Hell, pay me. I'm a freelance contractor. I'll fix your car thing. Go to my website. I'll promo that somewhere in some kind of link in the description. www.codewonder.land. I'll fix your car thing. But yeah, no. So there's instructions on the internet for this. I think the easiest way to go about starting on a process like this is to look up the Carthing macro pad, and you're gonna pop up this very first result. Carthing as a macro pad, issue 23 in GitHub. This post is how to set up your Carthing as a macro pad that can look anywhere from something like this to something like this. A lot similar to the Elgato macro pad. I'm not showing you how to do that. But this is really the only place that I know to get people reliably to where you need to go. So you go to this website, and I'll put a link to this as well. But, I like showing people how to get to it, even if the links die. But, yeah, the very first link here is the firmware images for the car thing. Here's the folder. And honestly, I'll probably just link this folder in the description. Mega, you don't need to sign in or create an account or anything for this. You just come over here, you click download a zip file. It'll download. It'll take a second. I've already downloaded it, so I don't need to. Cancel. Yes. Alright. And we got our terminal here, but for purposes, I can just pull it up here. So I've extracted it into a folder called Carthing OG. So we're gonna change directory to Carthing OG, and it's pretty straightforward. I'll even show you actually in here. So if we go to Documents, Carthing, we got Carthing OG here. And this has 3 folders, as you saw in Mega a second ago: dumps, OTA updates, and unbrick. Don't think that this is going to work if you get bricked via Spotify. This is if you mess up your device while messing with any of this. So while this says unbrick, it will not, or I'm pretty sure it's not going to fix whatever Spotify is doing. So, close this for now. In this dumps folder, you'll see a readme.txt. This thing is brilliant, honestly. This is pretty much your guide to flashing custom firmware onto your car thing. And that might sound scary and intimidating, but all that really means is that this piece of hardware that has software running on it needs to swap out to run a different software. and specifically just an older version of the Carthing OS that has been modified. We're going with an older version here just because this version has been documented so well, and realistically, if you use a newer version and you try to modify it, there's a possibility that you will not avoid getting bricked on December 6th. So we're going to go with this version that has been tested a lot. Specifically, we're going to go with 8.25, not stock, 8.25 ADB enabled. Or at least that's what I'm using. But for most people, actually, you're probably going to use 825 non-premium. So this guide, it tells you to download Superbird tool from this website. So you take this website right here, you open link, it pops open this, you click code, you click download zip, and then you zip the zip. I think that I have that in here. Yep. So Superbird tool is right here. You don't even need to worry about any of this. You don't even need to read the README. You just go back to that document that we were just reading. Download the firmware of your choice from this folder. So for most people, what you're probably going to go for is this 825 non-premium. What this is it's a version of Spotify Carthing. It specifically does not have any kind of premium requests or checks, so you don't have to have Spotify Premium to use the Carthing if you've installed this. It's been modified. The other important thing about this is that they went ahead, because they have bypassed the premium checks, and excuse me, they have turned off over-the-air updates. So that's very important because otherwise, the non-premium aspect would have gotten overridden. Spotify would have noticed this, fixed it, sent out an update, and just no, they don't want people using it without non-premium or without having a premium account, which pirate software. But we don't want them to send out updates to your device. That's how they're going to break your device in the first place. Is they're going to send out an update that's going to tell your device to destroy itself. So having this version of the operating system that already has the updates turned off is super helpful. From here, you've picked out your version. You're just going to double click it and extract it. I'm on Linux, by the way, if you can't tell. You can do this on Windows. I'm not going to go through the process of using Windows, but just note that there's some extra notes like 3A here that says that you're going to have to install some extra things. And some information will be slightly different. Now, I'm not going to re-extract all of this because I extracted it for the 825 ADB enabled, but it's all pretty much the same thing. It's the same set of files that have been slightly modified. Now, what is going to be different is that in the folder that you just unzipped, all of these are going to end with .dump. And you're going to want to change some of these. Specifically, you're going to change data, settings, system A, and system B to have these appropriate extensions to the end. So data.ext4, settings.ext4, system A.ext2, system B.ext2. Ignore this. This was just created once I started running it. Actually, I think that one was just there as well to start with. I don't know, but ignore that. It's not in the list. The list is right here, if you were curious. So it tells you which of these files you need to worry about, what the appropriate extensions are. So you can see data needs to be ext4, settings, ext4, system A, ext2, system B, ext2. Again, I know this sounds complicated. It's really not that bad. For me, all I had to do was right-click it, rename, and then change this to ext4. It's super straightforward. Then, sorry, I have a habit of when I'm not actually trying to make changes, even if it doesn't matter, I always click outside of it, but you would have, in that instance, ext4, clicked rename. It's a habit. And yeah, and it says here too, if data is missing, that's fine, since it's not required, and the Carthing will format it anyways. So, next, it says enter USB mode by holding preset buttons 1 and 4 while plugging in the USB cable. Now, I just have a little USB switch here where I can turn on and off the USB cables, and it's really difficult to plug in and unplug the USB cable in the car thing. So you would probably just pick a cable connected to your car thing and then unplug the USB end from your computer and plug it back in, as opposed to unplugging it and plugging back into the car thing. That's really not that important though. The first and the fourth buttons from the left on the top of the device need to be held down while you plug it in. That's going to put it into a recovery mode so that you can flash it. This is also, in reading some of the articles, you could tell that a lot of people covering this really don't understand the technical aspects of this. Because a lot of people are like, Spotify, unlock the car thing, and they're like, not commenting. Probably because their texts are saying that it's already unlocked. If you are a developer, it's technically unlocked. You just press these buttons, you plug it in, boom, you can flash it with whatever software you want. And these are just slightly modified versions of official software. There's even technically in the dumps folder just factory fresh versions. And then you can see 8.25 stock as well. So, I mean, there are official versions out there as well that you can use, but of course you don't want to use those because then they'll just update on you. That's why you would be installing the non-premium. So after you modify those files with their proper extensions, you press those buttons, you plug it in. Now, on Windows, apparently, it'll pop up on your computer as a device called gx.chip or dash chip. On Linux, it doesn't do that. It just stays on a black screen. Nothing pops up on my computer. And there's really no signifier that anything's happening other than the fact that it just doesn't turn on. Whereas any other time that you plug in the car thing, it would just normally turn on. So don't be alarmed if you don't see anything pop up that says GX chip. I never did. It worked perfectly fine. Next, you're going to go into your terminal. So right here, let's see, let me pop up in both so you can see both. Do that. Do that. So we have Superbird tool -- restore device path to extracted firmware folder. So let's change directory for a second. So I'm right now in the car thing OG folder, so you can see there's the dumps, OTA updates, and unbrick. So if we look at dumps again, you can see that the folder right there is A25 ADB enabled. So I'm going to move up for a second to this directory. I'm going to run superbird tool, superbirdtool.py, restore device, and you see I'm just typing exactly what I see right here, and then path to extracted folder, in my case, because this is where I've put it, is carthing OG/dumps/ 825 ADB enabled. Now, I'm not going to press this because I've already done it and it takes like 10-15 minutes. So just know that normally you would press enter there. If everything worked out, if it's connected in ADB mode, it'll say connected. If you're not connected, it'll tell you. And myself, if the first time I ran this, it did not say I was connected, and it was because I had unplugged it. So just make sure you get it plugged in, and make sure you plug it in while holding those buttons. It's black screened, plugged in properly, and then yeah, it'll go ahead and flash it properly, and it'll reboot at the proper setup screen. From there, I mean, you're good. You're solid. Now, for me, I'm not putting this back in my truck. I've already pried it open, and I don't have the adhesive to put the screen back onto the backside, so it's staying in my office as some kind of a display. I don't think I'm going to use it as a macro pad. Currently, I just have it. I'll show you what it's currently running. Let's see. It's running this animation currently. Nice little animation. Good little branding bit here. Can appreciate some good branding always. And normally there would be music that would accompany this. I just took this animation from other stuff that I had done and threw it onto here. But yeah, so this animation just runs on it because, as I said in the beginning, the entire Spotify client is just a web page. And in some upcoming videos, I want to show you guys a little bit more on how to exploit that, what we can do with that. Beyond that, one of the things that really got me going about this and really got me thinking about like wanting to make a video series is that somebody was saying that, oh, it's just a tiny Linux device. It can't do much. It doesn't have much in the way of hardware. And I'm like, I've worked with computers with so much less. Like, this has this beautiful screen. It has all these buttons. It's effectively a full Linux install. It runs a web server already for you, which you can do so ridiculously much for, or with. I've already seen and figured out examples of the MacroPad where you can use it over the Android debugging tool connector. You can forward some data from or to the car thing in your computer. And so people have used that to make MacroPads for streaming, as we looked at the very, very beginning, somewhere in this list of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, in this forum. So people use these to control aspects of their computer. People have used it as a home assistant tool, which you can actually see the little icon for right there. That's fun. But yeah, so there's a lot that you can do with it, and I just kind of want to exploit that for a while and see what we can come up with. So if you guys have any ideas of anything cool that you want to see me make with this, yeah, let me know. Just highlight of some features. As I mentioned, it's a full Linux device. It Linux, Android, somewhere in between. It's not a full Android device. It's not a full Linux device. It's not a microcontroller, but you can run plenty of stuff on it. It's got Bluetooth. It can connect to any kind of microcontroller over USB that I've got, so I could give it Wi-Fi if we wanted. I could give it a camera. Hell, you know what? I've got this old Xbox camera, like not like Xbox 360, but wait, is it X? Yeah, no, that would have been Xbox 360. I'm being dumb. Yeah, no, it's an Xbox 360 camera. With a USB connector that I've been dying to figure out a project for, so maybe we'll connect that to it or something. Uh, but yeah. Oh, also there's 2 gigs of data on there. Like what? Who needs 2 gigs of data for a little macro pad? That's so much. We can build so much shit with that. All right. Well, this has gone on long enough. But until next time, if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Check me out on Twitch if you want to watch me play more traditional kind of games and whatnot. I know this channel's Code Wonderland Gaming, but realistically, it's Code Wonderland messing around with stuff. But until next time, have a good one, everyone.